You're our own worst critic, or are we? So, that little voice that's inside our head can be a real pain in the ass sometimes, hey? Right? What are some of the things that you hear consistently?
Not good enough.
Not good enough. What else?
You can't do it.
Can't do it. What else?
Why would you do that?
You can't handle the success.
There you go. What else?
You are crazy.
Yeah. Love it. What else?
Loony.
How?
How?
Like the question, like you say something, how?
Yeah,
Like they already shut it down.
that's right.
Or the
Yeah.
what ifs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
We are in the trenches and do not piss us off.
warriors. So, what else? What else do you hear?
Too much.
Go inside and ask yourself, what do I hear?
I don't know.
Ah,
I don't know.
I don't know what to do. So I will lock. What else is in there?
Mine's kind of strange, actually. It's not so much all the fears. It was something you said before last time, and you said how, you talk with a friend, and then they come up with all these other opinions, and you go, oh, but you want us to learn to do that ourselves. Well, I already do that. I've always been a very diplomatic person, but I have resistance to it. And all these things, even the fears in my head, I'll even tell myself, I'm like, you're making this up. You're doing these fears. You're doing these anxieties. You're doing this, blah blah blah. But I still. So my biggest thoughts is actually pushing the resistance back. It's like I already know all of that.
You're just making a choice not to do it.
Exactly.
It's like having like a devil and an angel on your shoulder. Which one should I do?
You just brought me right into the next thing.
Thank you.
Timing is impeccable. So, there are two voices. Some call them the angel and the devil. I call it adult Angie and child Angela. There are two voices. And when you start doing inner child work, you feel like you're crazy. Because you start arguing with yourself in your head.
Or out loud.
Or out loud. So, I met a fabulous man who is a shaman in counselor schooling, and he is amazing. Some of the work, yes, makes me cry even talking about him. So, some of the work that he's doing is inner child stuff, and it's very, very powerful. So, my very first session with him doing inner child stuff, you know that ugly snot cry? Everybody's been there. You know you're healing when you're snotting all over the place, right? So, I do. It's real here. Like, there's no fluff. It's just, this is what it is. So, I didn't even get out of his doorstep, and I'm on the phone. So,
I should have paid her for the session because I gained too.
right? So I get over there and I'm explaining it to her what we did, and poignant turn in my recovery, which I am dying to share with you guys, is so when you're talking to yourself, and if you're hurting, so take yourself into a very, very sensitive space where your heart has been hurt. Doesn't matter what the circumstance is, everybody knows what that pain is, especially us sensitives. Me, coming from a very type A, workaholic type family, suck it up, princess. My biggest one that I heard was, you're such a wuss. That was mine. You're such a wuss. So, when your heart gets hurt, what do you say to yourself? I say, suck it up, princess. You're such a wuss. And my beautiful energy healer said, would you speak to your kids like that? Is that how you would comfort your child? And it was her turn for an ugly snot cry. Because why do we do that to ourselves? We don't need to. We all know as the adult, what we need to soothe our soul. So why are we being so mean to ourselves?
It's programmed into us. Like, we're programmed to do certain things when we're raised, you know, not to do this, not to do that, except the fact that, you know, we were kind of taught what you give out is what you get, which was a good one, but most of the time you're just taught to be closed. Work that 9 to 5, you know, do what you need to do to support your family and not, I don't know, not nurture yourself in a sense, because that's what happens. You don't nurture yourself enough.
So I'm gonna ask you guys a question. How's that working for you?
I know, right?
Thank you. Right? It's so shitty is what she said, if you guys didn't hear her.
Yeah.
You know, how's that working for you? And we are now the adult that is in charge of ourselves.
And it's super important, and this is sort of like, I'm not afraid of my story. Like I said, I've been the sinner and the saint. We have to remember that some of us come with trauma from childhood spaces, and it's our body going into self-preservation mode, right? Like from the age of 5 to 8, and I'm not afraid to own this. I was used as a little plaything with doctors, with boys at the end of the street. So I grew up thinking that I was a plaything for boys, right? So I'm okay with owning that. Like, it's made me who I am. But we're gonna block out some of the really hurtful stuff. And as we start to uncover the layers, some of the stuff will start to come back. The universe will only give you what you can handle at any point in time. So whether there's been verbal abuse, emotional neglect, abandonment, sexual abuse, trauma from accidents, you go back to that first age, like for me, like at the age of 5, right? I ran a fever of 103 and I broke out in fever blisters on my wrist. We didn't discover until I was 12 years old that I was born with one kidney, and when I was 5 years old, it was the last of my little remnant of the other kidney disintegrating, and my mom just kept going, it's okay, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay, and I wasn't okay, and I was in pain, and nobody said, what can we do to make it better? Right? So now I'm at the, oh, there's my 5-year-old acting out, what can I do to make me better? And as time goes on, that voice gets quieter and quieter and quieter.
Once it's acknowledged, the triggers go away. Once you nurture the baby, wherever that trauma was, it's happy. So if there is tons and tons of anxiety in your body, there's something that you need to look at to heal. But it's quite fascinating. Once you recognize what a trigger is and how to nurture yourself in that space, everything changes. It goes from, I've had this experience, and you're gonna, so the debriefing, what we call when you walk somebody through what's happening for you, you know you're over it when you can tell somebody, like you watch something on TV, there's no emotion attached. So Donna and I could not be standing up here talking to you guys about this stuff 5 years ago. Hell no am I sharing my story. You guys are gonna think I'm a freak, right? Because it's that fear space. And now, my life is an open book. I'm gonna be talking about a lot of things that happened in abusive situations, just like what happened with Donna. And it doesn't matter. I can talk about it now, and you know, obviously you feel emotion, it's your story, but that's all it is. We are here to live our story. It's how you choose to deal with it. You have a choice. You have a choice.
And no shame.
That's
No
right.
shame. This
And
is my story.
That's when you know, right? Like,
That's, you know, when you're done.
okay.
How many other people realistically go through it just don't solve that issue, right? Like,
Yeah, and you'll see it. You'll see it in your family. You'll see it in your friends. I didn't even want to. You shouldn't be talking about that. Shh, we're gonna sweep it under the rug. It didn't really happen. We're gonna.
Aren't you embarrassed? Like, yeah, you hear it.
No, that's where the sickness comes in. Shame breeds sickness.
That's right.
Fear breeds sickness.